Chapter 24, C.J. Sciutto. The trip back to the fort is the longest walk I've ever taken in my life. The guys stick with me, though, every step of the way. I don't remember the exact moment all the trouble began, the first time that Marcus hit me. The buildup was gradual. A firm parental hand gives way to a shove, which turns into something worse. There was no official start date. But the minute I realized that what Marcus was doing to me wasn't standard in everybody's house, I came to a conclusion. Nobody could find out about it. I wasn't embarrassed to be my stepfather's punching bag. I didn't feel guilty, like I must be doing something bad to bring it on. I always understood that the blame belonged to exactly one person, Marcus. It was just our thing, our family. No one else's business. Growing up, I never told the guys, although we were closer than brothers. We shared everything, but not that, even when I had to start my daredevil career to keep the secret. I spent years building those walls, and in one night they've all been blown to bits. It's terrifying to be exposed. I hate the guys for doing this to me, and I don't care that they think that it's for my own good. It's a kind of pain Marcus couldn't put on me no matter how hard he tried. So everything's out in the open. Years of pretending and scheming and lying and excuses ripped away like a Band-Aid. How can I face my friends now that they've seen what my world has turned into? The answer, how can I not? They won't leave. Evan, Jason, Ricky, and, via FaceTime, Mitchell surround me like Secret Service agents as we tromp through the dark woods. Halfway to the fort, Jason's phone dies, taking Mitchell with it. And one by one, the rest of our phones light up, and we can almost hear Mitchell's urgent nagging in our ringtones. How weird is that? The world is practically ended, and the four of us are standing amid the trees laughing because Mitchell's a pain in the neck. Finally, I answer. Hey, dude. Mitchell is almost shouting. If you think I'm going to let you go through this alone, then you're the one who should be failing out of school. Fine, I tell him. Calm down. It takes Mitchell's ranting for me to clue in. The guys can't fix my life, but they're here. I've still got my problems, but I'm not alone with them anymore. That tiny bit of comfort disappears when we reach the fort. All at once, I can't handle the idea of being by myself in that hole in the ground with nothing but the cactus for company. If there's one thing the past hour has shown me, it's that no plant is a substitute for people who care about you. I throw open the hatch, hoping that the physical effort will disguise the quiver in my voice. Well, I guess this is my stop. See you guys at school tomorrow. And I throw a leg over the side and my left foot finds the first rung of the ladder. Evan jumps forward. All right, breakfast is at 7 at my house. I get up at 6:30, so come anytime after that. We can go to my place after school, Ricky suggests. We'll do homework together, and my dad's going to barbecue after that. From the phone, Mitchell adds, well, then come to my house. Mom pulled the twilight shift so we can hang out late. My mother's always bugging me to invite you guys over, Jason puts in. It helps her pretend everything's normal. Okay, sure. Bye. The words blur as tears start to fill my eyes, and I scramble down the ladder in record time. I don't mind anymore that they know about Marcus, but I don't want my friends to see me cry. 3 days later, I'm standing in the Donnellys' bathroom wrapped in a towel. I clear a spot on the steamed mirror and examine the area on my cheek where I slammed into the car after the Hurricanes game. The scab is gone, the redness has faded. My injured ribs don't hurt that much anymore, and my cuts and bruises are mostly healed. If I was living at home, there's a pretty good chance that those old wounds would be replaced by new ones, courtesy of Marcus. But I'm still sleeping at the fort. The guys are helping me out. Evan has the best shower. The water is so hot that it's almost like having your own private steam room. Evan says his grandfather likes it that way, and plus they have these super fuzzy towels. So I've been going there after school to wash up the last couple days, and tonight I'm staying for dinner, but I can't sleep over. The chances are too high that Evan's grandmother might call my mom to make sure it's okay. 3 minutes later, the knock at the door would be Marcus. He wouldn't risk trying to drag me out of a public place like school, but a private home would be fair game. I may be free of Marcus for the moment, but the threat of him is always hanging over me, and the guilt of leaving Mom alone with him is even worse. Now that he hasn't got me to push around, what if all that anger gets transferred to her? Is my escape putting her in danger? I have to force thoughts like that out of my head to keep functioning. When I can wrestle away the dread, I try to focus on the little things, like getting out of a hot shower and putting on clean clothes. I've never been a neat freak, but I'm really starting to appreciate it. Evan's been sneaking my stuff in with his laundry, since we're more or less the same size, and so far we've been getting away with it. But at dinner, Evan's grandmother comments, "Have you kids got some kind of dress code? Evan has a shirt just like that." Evan and I practically break our necks whipping around to see if Luke picked up on that. But he's wearing his usual scowl and concentrating on a bowl of soup. That's the downside of spending too much time at Evan's. Luke is there, and Luke is one half of the team of Luke and Jaeger. He usually ignores us like we don't exist, but I worry about him noticing how much I'm hanging around lately. Later that night, I point to the gold-rimmed china plates on the display rail in the Donnelly dining room and comment, "Hey, don't those dishes remind you of Bennett Delamere's stuff?" Luke breaks through the salon doors through the kitchen. "What do you shrimps know about Bennett Delamere's stuff?" Now at home, Luke normally looks half asleep, like he's bored himself 90% of the way into a coma. But he's wide awake now, and if he had dog ears, they'd be standing straight up. Evan tries to bluster our way out of it. "Well, he just means, the Delameres are all rich, so they probably own a lot of fancy junk like that." But Luke isn't buying it. "Is that where all the money's coming from? Are you swiping stuff from the Delameres?" "I don't think there are any Delameres in Canaan anymore," I put in. "Didn't they all move away back when Bennett died?" "Tell me," Luke snarls. "We can't tell you because there's nothing to tell," Evan insists, his voice high-pitched. "There isn't any money, Luke. I've told you 1,000 times." "Listen to me." A subtle change comes over Luke. He's not interrogating us anymore. It's almost like he's pleading. "You can't keep this secret forever. Jaeger's going to worm it out of you one way or another. You want to deal with me or you want to deal with him? Don't push him too hard. He could hurt you to get what he wants." Evan and I exchange a nervous look. That was a threat, but a warning too. We always consider Luke to be 50% of the enemy, but this is a new view of his partnership with Jaeger. Luke's in, and he doesn't know how to get himself out. He's afraid of the guy. And if Luke's afraid, how are we supposed to feel? I'm not just spending time at the Donnellys. The guys are spreading me around between all their houses so I don't wear out my welcome anywhere. And the dance gets kind of tricky. I can only go to Jason's when he's living with his mother, since his dad's apartment is far away. And I can't risk sneaking my bike out of the garage. Marcus would notice that, and it would give him a whole new way to track me. Mitchell's house is another option. His mom officially ran out of patience with his unsickness, and so he's back at school, which means he can have friends over again. He still won't come to the fort, though. Talk about stubborn. He insists that he might have leftover germs, and he doesn't want to contaminate the place. Ricky's house works too, except I have to be extra quiet around the baby, and because Ricky is still studying for the entrance exam for that new magnet school, which is coming up next week. I know we all razz Ricky about the magnet thing, but it's kind of impressive about how hard he's hitting the books. His room looks like a college library with 1,000-page texts on every surface and post-it notes scattered like snowflakes. The last time I went to the bathroom there, I found an atlas balanced on the toilet seat open to a giant fold-out relief map of the Himalayas. Now that kid must be crazy smart, although I can't be sure. I'm not smart enough to recognize that level of smartness. Anyway, Ricky was the one with the brains to figure out what's going on with my stepfather and me, so I owe him big time. If you get into that school, I ask in awe, is this a taste of what the homework's going to be like? He shrugs. Pretty much, and I'll probably get kicked back down to 7th grade, too. Man, we'll never see you. He shoots me a wry smile. Yeah, the guys will be devastated, especially Mitchell. I feel a pang. We didn't exactly go out of our way to make Ricky feel welcome. If he hadn't been the one who found the fort, he would have been out on his butt. Yeah, well, promise you'll make a little bit of time for us, I request. In your genius hood. Sure, he says, and we'll always see each other at the fort. The fort. Now that I'm basically living there, I'm starting to cherish every moment that I'm someplace else. Just like the fort started out as our escape from our regular lives, now I wish I had a second fort to get away from the first. Or maybe it's a regular life that I long to get back to, a real one, where I don't have to be afraid all the time. I miss my mom, but mostly I'm worried about her. Ricky keeps researching these hotlines that are run by organizations that support victims of domestic abuse. They sound legit, but I'm afraid to call. What if Marcus gets wind of it somehow? I know exactly what would happen then. He'd go berserk, and I'd be totally safe at Ricky's, leaving her in the line of fire. From Ricky's, it's back to Mitchell's. His place is the nighttime hangout thanks to Mrs. Worth's late shifts. It's after 11 when I finally leave him to head to the fort, and Canaan is gloomy and deserted. The roar of a big motor in the distance makes my skin crawl. I'm being paranoid. There's more than one unmuffled engine in town, but this one sounds a whole lot like Yeager's Mustang, and it's the right time of night for jerks like him who are looking for trouble to get into. As I hurry along, some streets are so dark that I'm tempted to turn on the flashlight on my phone. I resist the impulse. That app eats power. If my phone dies in the blackness of the woods, I'll never find the fort. When at last I reach the cover of the trees, an unsettling sight catches my squinting eyes. A car is parked about 50 yards down from the trail entrance. The car. Yeager's Mustang. A stab of fear pulses through me. Does this mean that they're lurking somewhere near the trailhead waiting to intercept one of us? They've made no secret of the fact that they believe we're hiding something important and money-making in the woods. Or maybe they're out there already, searching, hoping to find their prize the same way we did, by stumbling on it. My first thought is I can't go any farther, and then I realize that I can't stay here either. Sooner or later, Luke and Yeager will come back to the car and see me. I could find some place to lie low until they leave, but that might not be for hours. My best option is to just head for the fort. The woods are a big place. Chances are they won't catch me. Plus, I know where I'm going, and they don't. So I start out slowly, without my phone light, keeping to the edge of the trail, in case I have to duck behind a bush or something. My ears don't pick up any unusual sounds. That has to be good news. Yeager is as silent as a snake, but Luke is usually yammering a mile a minute. I haven't gone very far before the darkness is total and smothering. I can't even see my feet on the path. I'm navigating with my hand along the underbrush like I'm following a fence. It gets so bad that I have to flash my phone on for a second or two just to get my bearings. I don't dare leave the light on any longer than that, though. In this kind of blackness, that would be like holding up a signal flare and yelling, "Here I am, come and get me!" My progress is slow, and I admit I'm pretty scared. At this rate, I won't make it to the fort until it's time for school tomorrow. I flash my light one more time, struggling to memorize the twists and turns of the trail ahead. But when the darkness surrounds me again, I notice something that nearly stops my heart. Another light plays through the maze of trees to my left, and it can only be Luke and Jaeger. I freeze and stop breathing for I don't know how long. Now I hear voices. Luke: "I hate bugs. Why do there always have to be bugs?" And Jaeger: "Shut up." One of them must have a powerful flashlight, because every time it moves, hundreds of shadows cascade through the woods. I duck behind the biggest tree I can find, but it's no use. The light's everywhere, and I can't really tell what direction they're coming from. The urge to sprint down the path toward the fort is almost overwhelming, but I fight it down. The last thing I'm trying to do is lead these jerks exactly where they want to go. I cower in place as their flashlight casts shadows dancing around the woods, closing in on me. And all at once, the shadows stop moving, and the beam is blinding. Luke's voice: "There's one of them!" I unfreeze in a hurry and make for the darkest part of the woods at a pace that's beyond dangerous. Roots and underbrush snatch at my ankles, and branches scratch my face and arms, but I don't slow down. Anything is better than falling into the hands of these two. "Come back, CJ!" Luke calls, panting with exertion. "We just want to talk," Jaeger adds. Oh yeah, I know exactly what they want to talk about. I've already decided that even if they catch me, I'm not going to give up the fort. Luke and Jaeger have longer legs, but I have the edge in experience in these woods. I can tell because their flashlight beam has grown dimmer and more dispersed around me. The downside is now it's harder for me to see where I'm going, and the branches and tree trunks fly out of the darkness at me like I'm playing some crazy video game. The curses and the threats grow fainter as Luke and Jaeger fall farther behind. I'm almost congratulating myself on a spectacular escape when it happens. The branch comes out of nowhere and clotheslines me across the chest, dropping me on the spot. The impact is so shocking that it takes me a few seconds to realize that I'm on my back. And at the last second, I have the presence of mind to roll into some underbrush. And there I lie, gasping into my fist as the light becomes brighter and the footfalls get so close that I can feel them rattling the ground. I press myself into the soft earth and wait for the moment when I'm hauled upright by the scruff of the neck. It doesn't come. I don't know how close they are when they run by me. It can't be more than 10 feet. But they pass right on and keep going. How do they miss me? I have no idea, but they do. Maybe when you think you're chasing somebody, the last place you look for them is straight down. I can still hear Luke and Jaeger crashing through the trees for at least another 7 or 8 minutes before they realize that they've lost me. That's followed by a heated argument about what went wrong, and I swear I'd laugh out loud if I wasn't so terrified that they'd hear me. I lie there for what seems like forever after they've argued their way out of earshot. There's no way to tell if they've given up, if they're still searching, or even if they're trying to retrace their steps to see where they lost me. It hits me that I'll have to lie here for the rest of my life, mud-caked and being eaten by bugs, before I can ever be entirely sure I'm in the clear, and that's not a pleasant thought. I'm about to jump out of my skin when I hear the most beautiful sound that anyone in my position could hear. The distant roar of the Mustang starting up again. I struggle to my feet, raining dirt in all directions. 2 beady eyes gleam at me in the darkness, and I risk the light. Not Jaeger, not Luke. An angry chipmunk woken from a deep sleep. It's a long story, I mumble, and set off for the main trail. Now that I can use my light, finding the fort's easy enough. And once I'm down the ladder and the power is on, I can see what a mess I am. Every step rains mud, leaves, and twigs down onto the floor, and as exhausted as I am, I take time to clean it up. When I catch sight of myself in the mirror in the kitchen, I realize that I need some cleanup too. And while I'm sponging off at the sink, I wonder why a rich guy like Bennett Delamere didn't think he needed a shower in his bomb shelter. Maybe the idea was that if you can survive a whole world war, being clean is the least of your worries. Well, I never made it through a war, but when I think about what happened tonight, survive seems like a pretty good word for it. When I finally lie down on the couch, I'm wide awake and still shaking. How much longer am I going to be able to live like this?